deep back bends here today, which are beautiful and complex and freeing, and really they tend to feel very good. But we want to make sure that we set them up right and that we give a lot of options and a lot of good, solid cues. So the first cue is to have your student lie on their backs with their knees bent and their feet flat. And you want to make sure that their heels are in line with their sitting bones so that their knees can point straight up. And setting the feet here now on their back is critically important, because when you do push up, a lot of people like to turn open, they like to drop into different leg variations, so just setting this foundation now can be great. As you inhale, Kendall, we will rise up into a supported bridge pose. So she'll come up into a bridge pose and she'll take her block and place it under her sacrum. Now she's not going too far forward where her tailbone is, that wouldn't be supportive. And she's not going so far back with the position of her block that it's pushing up into her kidneys. So right there in that sweet spot in the middle where the tailbone can tip gently off that cliff edge of the block. And for most of us, this feels like a really good supported way of breathing into a back bend. Okay, with your inhalation, broaden across your shoulder heads. Turn your palms to face down. I love turning the palms to face down because it gives you a little bit of access to strength to those back arms. So from the shoulders to the hands, you can press lightly down, even when you're supported. Take one more breath like this, and as you exhale, remove your block off to the side. Okay? For some of us, that's the whole back bend practice. Lower down to your back. Now, if you're going on to a more active back bend, Kendall, do you prefer placing a block between your inner thighs for this transition?
I can try it.
Okay, so this is a great option that helps to automatically engage the inner thighs. So as you inhale, option to have a block there, rise up into a supported bridge pose. Okay, squeeze the block lightly, but not so much that you feel like you're straining your inner thigh. So light engagement. Then you'll interlace your hands underneath your back and roll your shoulder heads underneath you. And notice that the action of rolling her shoulder heads underneath her gave a huge lift to her sternum. And this is where the bridge is. The bridge isn't from heel to top of head. The bridge is from shoulder to shoulder. So as you inhale, you want to feel that rise of your sternum. And as you exhale, lengthen your tailbone toward your block, toward the backs of your knees. You want to engage your glutes and back bends. Regardless of what you've heard in other yoga classes before, there's been a lot of conversation around softening the glutes and back bends, but this is extension in the body. So a light engaging at the glutes, according to how you feel fit, can often be a really healthy cue for your body. So enough grip to feel the strength. As you exhale, release your shoulders and then lower yourself down. That was at least 8 breaths. So you want to give her a nice long rest here. Move the block out from underneath you.
Is this a good rest?
Yes, so separating your feet as wide as your mat and letting your knees rest on each other. You probably can't see the angle from where you are, but from my angle, I can really see that when her knees are together, and if you practice this, you can see it by looking down the midline of your body, her inner groins get to soften and release toward the floor. So her thigh bones, her femur bones just find a softness, a settling.
Some people like to rest by bringing the soles of the feet together and the knees out wide. And I've heard this to be something as well that's a little bit debated because it changes the shape of your sacroiliac joint on each side and can compress that joint after you're looking to just release those tissues and allow the pelvis to soften down and the heads of the femurs to soften down. So you can offer either one and ask a student to find their own way through it.
I completely agree. I find that feet apart and knees together is a more nourishing release for my pelvis.
Me too.
Okay, so the next position, she has set her feet up. We're gonna go into a really great supported variation of Urdhva Dhanurasana, full wheel. This variation, maybe you do this with somebody that you feel very comfortable with. There are pros, and that is, it's great for the wrists. It also allows the teacher to support the student in physically building the strength to lift up into the shape. The cons are it requires a little bit of intimacy, a little bit of understanding, a little bit of permission from that student. So if it's a new student and you don't know their body very well and you haven't worked with them, you may wait for that relationship to build. So supported Urdhva Dhanurasana, Kendall, I'm gonna come in and support you in this shape. So I actually step my feet to either side of her head. And then I'm going to instruct you, Kendall, bring your hands onto my ankles. Take a breath in. Now, almost all of us, as we're setting up to go upside down, our elbows will pull away from each other. So the first instruction here will be draw your elbows toward each other. Find that narrowing in the elbows. Then push down into your feet, pause. Come up onto the top of your head, Kendall. Good. Now my hands are holding her shoulder blades. So she's supported in her wrists and she's supported in her shoulders. Push into my feet and rise up. Take a full breath in. She doesn't actually need my support here because she's so strong, but it's still good to have this here. And a light lifting can release those tight neck muscles. One more breath. As you exhale, tuck your chin in and slowly lower down. Now I have to guide her all the way back down. You don't want to let go. And then you release. This can be such a beautiful way to practice Urdhva Dhanurasana, maybe in a student that's never quite had the guts to do it before. Okay, and then next, Urdhva Dhanurasana, full posture. So Kendall, bring your hands back by your shoulders.
What's something else that's common that happens here when you say bring your hands by your shoulders?
Well, a lot of times people bring their hands very wide, right? Which doesn't give you the clearance to even rise up. So walk your hands under your shoulders. And by the way, this walking the hands under the shoulders and wrapping the elbows in might be the end. This might be where you're working. There's a lot of strength happening here. So as you walk your hands in and hug your elbows toward each other, take a breath in, and before you even go up, notice your instinct in your rib cage to thrust upward. So as you exhale, settle the back of your ribs into the ground. So feel the ground first before you rise away from it. Then rock your elbows in. Come to the top of your head. And inhale to press up. Good. Press into your feet. Now, the more advanced students, they might have even done this with a block between their inner thighs. Then draw your tailbone forward, deepening your tailbone into your body. And try to turn your toes straight forward rather than out. Take one more breath here. Or even 3 breaths is long. Exhale, draw your chin in and lower down. So notice how you always instruct softening the head first when you're coming out of these really deep back bends.